Okay. So everybody can see the onegaishimasu?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll do our 2004 claps and I say onegaishimasu and you say it back to me. It's getting like easy, right? The routine. Ray? Onegaishimasu.
Onegaishimasu.
All right, good. So can you feel the tingling in your hands from clapping? So today I wanted to just pick up on the centers work that we did last week. And we did the sounds, the toning, talked about centering. There's a lot to centering, and there's a lot of practices, but there's one aspect that I wanted to share that's not specifically Aikido. We won't dwell on this too much. I'm actually presenting on this in a workshop tomorrow. So I had the slides ready, so I was going to just share a little because the first part is sort of from Aikido. So basically that we have our center, you know, our hara center, our belly center that we focus on in Aikido. But the idea is to stabilize our emotions and our mind in our hara. So that's why we put all of our attention in our first years of training. And pretty much if you go to any Aikido dojo or any martial arts dojo, they're going to talk about the hara, the center in the belly. You're not going to get into heart work or head work, you know. Back when I was first learning Aikido, if you got into your head, they punished you. I mean, they whacked you on the head. So the black belts, when I was a white belt, if you're trying to figure out a technique or you're thinking too much, it would just kind of go like that and hit you on the head. Nowadays, you know, we'd get sued for that. But back then, that's just the way they did it. And after about 2 years, I stopped thinking. But, you know, it's not a good method because it's also not very Aikido to try to force people not to do what they're doing. So we've refined over the years that to be in the hara is much more natural and easy if we're gentle and effortless about it. It's more about awareness. It's not about trying. So we've kind of refined that over many years. But that's the basic premise of Aikido is it's called the art of non-resistance because when someone attacks us, we don't force them to stop attacking us. We learn how to be relaxed around high pressure situations, get in our bodies, get in our centers, extend our energy, and blend with that person, meaning we go with them. We go with their flow. You could say if somebody yells at you, we're going to practice this today. Instead of yelling back at them, we practice the Aikido principles. So I spend a lot of time with the principles because we can't really do anything if we're not relaxed or if we're not centered or if we're not grounded. And then we extend our energy, we extend our ki because we need to use our ki to join with our partner's ki or energy, right? So we're really wanting not just to blend with them physically, but we want to blend with people energetically. Okay, so I know this may sound glib, but it does take a lot of practice. And it never really feels like the practice ever stops because no one ever arrives at a perfect state of blending. We're always, the universe throws things at us that challenge us and throw us off balance. And so we're always doing this practice. But I wanted to refine this idea of the center a little bit more, that all humans have these functions. The hara or the gut center is where we feel. You could say it's where our deep feelings are. It's where it's like when you're grounded in the body, you know what you feel. You know who you are, when you're really grounded in the body, when you're sensing your substance, your sensations, you're aware of everything that's going on around you with your five senses. And then you can kind of sense this energy, this flow, this kind of beingness that we are. That's what is meant by feeling. You're really feeling. A lot of people think the heart is where we feel. The heart is where we do, where we reach out, where we connect with people. So a person with a good heart, grounded in their feelings, the feelings will be authentic. Heart, though, if it's not grounded, if it's just heart out in the world, it's usually imitating or performing or being the way you're supposed to be to get popular, to get accepted, or get approval. So if we're just existing from the heart, we're reaching out and we're doing things for people, we're helping people. A lot of people in Hollywood, Bollywood, actors are very good heart people. They know because they're tuning in, their energy is going out, tuning in to what's accepted, what's needed, how am I going to get applause? You see what I mean? So that's different than feeling. So when we're in our guts, we don't really care that much what people think. We are connected to our feelings. We want to be authentic. And there's problems with that too. If you're just stuck in that, then there's a stubbornness, there's a rigidness. Okay, and I'll show you a little bit more about that later. So all these centers, these three centers, if they're not integrated with all three functions, they can have an obsessiveness to them, a problem to them. It's what we'd say in Aikido, there's an imbalance. So we really want to have all three of our centers. So the last one is the head center. And it's about observing, being able to see the big picture. These people, so the idea is that all of us have a preferred center, a center that I call our natural energy. And by knowing this little system here, you figure out what is my preferred energy. And then you'll know that you need to do something a little extra to connect the three functions, or else we get out of balance. Okay. So for instance, I'm a gut type. I mean, that's why I was drawn to Aikido, probably. I'm good with energy. I'm good with the body, all that stuff. My least, I call this the buried, is the perceiving. I don't like to be in my head, so I will feel things and then do things without thinking. And I make a lot of mistakes when I do that. Now, if I have friends who are my husband's a head, he's a perceiving type. He's very good but he observes things, he sees things I miss. But the head types tend to pull back and separate. That's how it feels for me. As a gut person, I'm in the action, I'm in the world, I'm really connected in the world. And feeling types are doing, and they're connected to the world by interacting and doing and flowing and connecting. But they're not feeling their feelings. So they'll make mistakes because they're all into action and not into really feeling, do I really feel this is right? Is this the thing I'm supposed to do? They're getting their information from the outside. You see, so these three parts of us, heart, head, and gut, all need to be online, lit up, energized, for us to be balanced people. So this is kind of an awareness practice. At the end in the homework, I bring this in. I bring our same homework, but I say, see which center, observe yourself. We can only really know by self-observation and just noticing, like here, notice your energetic position when dealing with people. Head types will pull back with strangers, I say strangers, and when something's unusual, and a head type will want to pull back, separate, and gather information about the person or about the situation. They'll be more cautious. They'll be more circumspect, okay? You can, if you're a gut type like I am, you would feel, I can feel instantly if somebody is BSing me. if they're trustworthy. I feel it in my body. Now, a lot of people don't do that naturally, right? Gut types generally do. Now I'm generalizing, so you can kind of see, maybe you can already get ideas that you're one over the other. And a heart type would be much more into doing the proper role. Role playing is big with them. Well, how am I supposed to behave in this situation? You know, they would be to a stranger, maybe they would be afraid, but they wouldn't be in touch with that. They would just want to look friendly and nice to this person because they're maybe higher rank or something like that. You see, those kind of things come into consideration with the doers.
Can I ask a
Yes.
question in relation to the heart type? So, do the heart types also, like, are those people heart types as well if they are feeling a lot of guilt after a certain situation?
That could depend. I mean, everybody can feel guilt because everybody has a heart center, right? We all have a heart function.
Right.
And I feel guilt, you know, even though it's not my preferred center, of course I feel guilt. So that you have to see, right now at this stage, it's just sort of seeing this as a tool for sort of diagnosing yourself. And we all have guilt, we all have love, we all have fear, we all have anger. But if the gut types tend to be a little bit more on the going, you know, against things, being angry, than say a head type, which would be more leaning toward fear. Maybe the heart type would have maybe more shame. I call it kind of an anxiety about, because if you think of if you're always having to perform and act for other people and show up as a good person, but you're not in touch with your feelings. Inside, you always feel like, God, there's something phony about me, or I'm empty, or I'm not being myself, or you could feel like guilty or shamed about that, right? So then you try harder and work harder to get approval from people because you're not getting approval from yourself.
So people pleasers.
Yes, that's a good word for the action oriented. I sometimes call them the actors. They make great actors and actresses. They, you know, and you hear a lot of stories about actors and actresses. You know, they have a lot of issues with taking drugs and alcohol and killing themselves because they're empty inside. You know, when there's no audience, they feel depressed. You know, because they haven't been in touch with so they need to get in touch with their, you know, this is their buried function, feeling. Okay, so that we will have a preferred center, and then we'll have a buried center. So these are the head types. They see, they observe, they're good, they can detach, see things, they understand things, they're looking for knowledge and understanding. The heart types want to be, they're performers, they're doers. They, you know, they want approval from others because, you know, like what I just said, they don't feel in touch with themselves. And then the gut types I call beers, or they're feelers, they sense. So in terms of the energy in Aikido, we would say the life force comes in. I always would say this in my teaching, the way, see how when life wants to come, it can even come up through asphalt. So it comes in, and especially when we're under pressure, when we're stressed and we have a job to do, or there's a meeting and you got to look good, and we're all going to get energy. And I always would say it comes in from underneath. And I realized that maybe that's just how I feel it because I'm a gut type. Maybe a heart type feels it come in and hits their heart, you know. You have to perform, you have to do a good job, and you're a heart type, and it really means a lot to do the job right, you know, do well and get everybody thinking you're great. Whereas a gut type would say, well, yeah, I have to do a good job, but I need to be authentic, you know. If I lie or if I'm not honest with myself, then I'll feel terrible, then I'll feel guilty. You see, so it's kind of all about being true to your experience. And they can be very, very rigid. Believe me, I'm one of them. You know, we can be like, if we're not in touch with these other centers, we can be very arrogant and rigid because of that. You see, so
I'm sorry, that's the head type?
No, the gut type
That's the gut type. Okay.
whenever we're kind of in our preferred center, whether it's head, heart, or gut, there's a kind of blind spots. There's a blindness. We can get arrogant about our own way. Like a head type can think they're know-it-all. Why can't people see what I see? You know, they see well, and then they look around, they see people behaving in a way that doesn't seem like that common sense to them, and they'll think people are stupid compared to them. But if they experience all of their centers, they will have understanding of other types. And this is true of all of us. If I, for instance, I can get stuck in my feelings, and that what jogs me out of my feelings is doing. I go to doing. See, you always go in the direction. I didn't put a slide for that, but you always go in the direction of the energy. So the energy goes up, I go to doing. When I'm doing, then my center that I'm not very conscious of, which is my head, then I get ideas, I get insight, I get perspective. But I can't go from my feelings to perspective. I'm too emotional, I'm too riled up. I have to get up and exercise. I've always been a big exerciser. I got into martial arts when I was in my teens. You know, once I was doing and moving my body around, opening up, my mind started working. I started to see, oh, now I see that other person's point of view. And say with the head perspective, they have perspective, but they're not in touch with their feelings. So the direction is the energy comes in. So if I'm up here, if I start up here in my head, to get into, they have trouble with doing. So the center right behind is the one where it's like a blind spot. So if you can kind of see this as a circle. So right in front of me is doing, so I can go to doing to get to seeing, to getting perspective. If I'm a heart type, I'm doing, and then I can kind of get some perspective and some understanding, some ideas. And I have to go there before I can go into my feelings. I have to get clarity. You can do, you're out there busy. You have to go to the head, get some clarity, some objectivity, because in doing, we're, just a machine. And then I can get into the subjectivity, how I feel. See, so think of this energy coming in and circling around like that. It's like a circular energy. So if I start in the head, I have good perspective, but I'm not doing anything. They have trouble with doing. Like a kind of armchair theorist or an intellectual in an ivory tower. They just, just talking about ideas all the time, and they're not doing anything. Talking about how bad society is and how this is bad, and they're critical and this and that, and they don't do anything except criticize. So they need to come into their feelings, their ground, their core, and then they can do something about it, what they think, or their theories. You see what I'm saying?
Can I, sorry.
Go ahead, Sneha.
Can I quickly share something that I just remembered? This is something I do with my clients. So anytime I see them being the seers in their head, where they're just complaining or pointing out things or just talking about things, but not able to accomplish anything, I bring them to their heart space, because I didn't know about how you can be like feel and sense. So I bring them to that space where to begin connect with themselves through gratitude. So I say, okay, what are you grateful for? What is it that you have? How can you be grateful instead of complaining all the time? Let's bring your energy into gratitude. So that's how I work towards shifting. So what would that be?
I would say what you're really doing is bringing them into their being, into their ground. You're getting them, because up here in the head, it's scary. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of, what if this happens? What if that happens? There's a lot of what if, unknown. I got to be in control, and I don't feel like I can be in control if I let go of my head. So when you talk about gratitude, you're bringing them down into I think first maybe do a grounding exercise with them, so they're feeling their body. Because to go from head backwards, like a head type trying to do. My husband explained this to me.
Mm.
He said, if I just go from my head and then try to do something, I always make mistakes. You know, it's always gets all messed up and screwed up and too complex, and you know, it's a mess. There's something about coming to being for a head type, coming to ground,
Mm.
getting really grounded, where you actually can say like, ah, when there's a safe feeling in the body for a head type. They live up in their heads and they come into their body, they feel like, ah, they feel there's a safety in now moving out into action.
Mm.
You know, but generally their default position is to be kind of back, holding back and a little afraid.
Mm.
I may make a mistake, or maybe that person's going to screw me over, you know what I mean? But they come, when you come into the body, there's a kind of safety because you're grounded in reality. Your feelings are real. You know, it's not just your feelings, but it's actually your body sensations.
Mm.
And then you actually can start to feel how grateful you are because you're breathing in the life force. Wow, I'm alive. I saw this movie the other day of a woman who went to a prison. She was accused of something she didn't do. She got 18 years, and it was in the Soviet Union. And she thought she was going to get killed. So she was interrogated, and she thought for sure she was going to die. They came back. They were like these interrogators, and they came back after about 4 minutes and said, "Okay, 18 years in the gulag." And she was overjoyed because she was expecting to be killed. And it was amazing because she was so grateful that she was, oh, I only got 18 years. Thought I would be very angry. But I thought she must be, you know, because of her expectation of being killed, she was happy. She only got 18 years in prison. Anyway. So, you know, it's all kind of perspective. I think, does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's not, I always thought of the heart as the feeling part as well. But once I got into thinking about this a lot, you know, some of my ideas come from the Enneagram, and I try to not get into types and stuff because it's too much. We'd have to study for weeks and weeks to get all the types. But we can get, if you study Aikido, you can start to understand that we have a center in the energy flowing, and we can start to observe, where does the energy go? Like in our homework practice, we're observing, how am I now sitting at the computer? Am I centered? How am I when I'm speaking to a group of people or when I'm in a meeting? And often, you know, you might discover, oh, I'm really out there. I'm really caught up in what's happening, or I'm really holding back, and just practice centering. Or I think a couple of weeks ago, we're practicing grounding. Now it'll be kind of notice where your energy is. Is it in your head? Is it in your chest? You know, chest kind of is more like, not like, don't think of it as heart, even though I said heart. I'm thinking of changing that because people think of heart as feelings. But on reflection, heart is really about doing things for other people and connecting to people. Okay. And feeling is really about sitting in your gut and feeling. You're just feeling, you know, I like this, I don't like this. I'm hungry, I'm not hungry. That's something you're really feeling. Whereas emotions have a lot to do with action. They're moving, emote, on the move, emote. It's, you know, feelings in motion. So you could say those feelings come up from our gut and turn into action. And then we get insight and thought and further understanding after action. So this is kind of the way it should be, that we get our feelings, then we go into action, then we get insight, and then we go back to our feelings, action, insight. So this is kind of a balanced way of being in the world. But instead, what happens in our upbringing, we get imbalanced. And one of the ways we get imbalanced is one of our centers takes over. One of these centers becomes preferred, like a habit. And we become lopsided. And we lose touch with we definitely lose touch of one over the other. And one will be kind of supportive, one that's easy, the one right in front, easy to access. Okay. So I'm just giving you this information so you can practice this week while observing your how you are in life. Just ask yourself, what is natural to me? Where am I just when I'm just being myself? What's natural? You know, those people who can't sit still and they have to be busy, busy, busy. Are you one of those? Or you really need to be pleasing people all the time? Are you like that? You see what I'm saying? So I really look forward to hearing your insights. There's a lot more to this, but I think if I talk more, it'll just maybe be too much. But does it make sense, y'all? Can you relate to this?
It makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
kind of triggering some ideas like, oh, you're thinking about what type am I, a gut type, a heart type, or a head type? Or you could say a beer, a doer, or a observer. It's another way to look at
I
it.
I,
Right?
I like this. I find this to be interesting, and um, I think like sometimes sometimes I need to work on my perception. Oh.
Yeah, so you could be one of these. You could be either a doer or a beer. Now remember the beers are, I'll show you another slide next week that I have, but always the one in front is the supportive. We're in touch with that one. And the one the farthest away is buried. It's unconscious. So but we cannot skip from being to seeing. We have to go through doing. Okay, so your next thing, if you have trouble with perception, which one? Are you kind of a do? Or you like to a good way to know you're a beer is you have instantaneous reactions to things. It's feel, judge, a lot of judgment in being. You feel something, I like that. I like him. I like her. I don't like him. You just feel it. It's like an instant thing. And I notice with other people, they don't have that. So they really have to be kind of hold on. Well, hang on a second. Let's get some big, broader view here. So that's the challenge with being one of them.
Can
But
you identify, sorry, please go ahead.
No, go ahead, Rico.
Can you identify with like two things? Is it
Yeah,
possible?
absolutely. You could have a good balance. You
Okay.
could be like very good at doing and perceiving at the same time. There's just a nice flow here. There's no blockage between them. See, these are the two areas we get blocked, right at the neck and right at the like the solar plexus. People get stuck in their solar plexus. They can't feel their belly, or they get stuck at their neck and they can't feel their heart. So if you're a doer, a lot of people are really good at doing and then have great ideas, and then they implement their ideas implement, and they can become like machines because this is really going well, but they're not feeling. And then they, after years of being very successful, making lots of money, they have nervous breakdown because they haven't been in touch with their deeper ground feeling, right? So yes, you can be definitely, and it might be hard to know, am I a doer or seer, or am I a seer? One way I know someone's an observer, I can sense it energetically, they're holding back. You need to hold back and hold down the energy. You got to like control things. Like if I'm emoting or feeling my feelings too much, I can't see things clearly. It muddies the water. Or if I'm busy doing stuff, I can't see things. I'm not calm. So they like to pull back. My husband, who's a head type, he'll say, it's like when things are crazy in the world, I feel like I'm like a bird that goes up to the top of a tree so I can see the whole thing, like a bird, like an eagle who gets a wide view. And I like to stay up there because it feels safer. But the problem is, you're stuck up in the tree and you can't do anything about the situation when you're up there. And they see everything really clearly. So that's one way I know someone's a head type is they're kind of pulled back, and there's a kind of detachment. And often they speak in abstract generalities. Yeah.
So would you say a head type would be somebody like, if you're talking to somebody about like a new idea, or that's kind of not in their belief system, and then you feel like extreme resistance, would that be a head type? I'm guessing.
It could be a gut type's reaction to a head type. So you're listening to somebody's idea that sounds kind of maybe unplausible,
Uh-huh.
maybe too impractical,
Mhm.
or not, that's not going to work. A gut type would say, oh, that's not going to work. They'd feel it.
Yeah. Or
Another
how
head
about, yeah, go ahead.
two head types together, a head type would say, oh, that's kind of an interesting idea. And they could go off talking about the idea and expanding on it and all the different ramifications of it. But a head type talking to a gut type, the gut type would say, that ain't gonna work. I can tell you right now, forget about it. And this poor person, the head type, doesn't ever get to, expand on their idea.
Okay.
And a gut type shouldn't do that. We should allow that person to expand on their idea and stay grounded and say, well, say something that will bring them back down into their feeling, because that's their supportive center, is feeling. So maybe ask a question. Head types like to be asked questions. Instead of saying, that's not going to work. Let's see that judgment of a gut type. I feel that it won't work, so I judge it instantly, and then shuts people down. So to work with a head type of your like gut type, you say, well, how would it work in this situation? Or what do you think about that? Kind of help them get down into practical feeling about it. I don't know if that answered your question, Rika.
I was thinking more of a person who is kind of probably has their own belief system, and they refuse to think out of that belief system, and they kind of reject anything outside of that, if you know what I mean. Or
like a religious fanatic type person.
Could be. And also, if they have grown up with a certain practice, and then you try to suggest something else in terms of even nutrition, or trying new foods, or trying a new experience, and they're just averse to the entire thing because they're used to something. Like
that could be someone down here that's just stuck in their gut center. They're stuck.
okay.
I like this. I've always liked this. Why should I change? It works for me. It could be that. It could also be somebody, it kind of depends on the energy. People usually don't, in general, it doesn't matter what center, they don't want to change unless they're suffering. If they've got a health problem and you're a dietitian or you're a nutrition specialist, and let's say they eat a lot of spicy food. They've always eaten a lot of spicy food. Now they're in middle age and it's starting to give them an ulcer. That will make them more open to change. So like a gut type, it's like, this feels good. I love spicy food. It's always felt good, but now it's not feeling so good. So they're going to be more willing to go into action, do something different. And then their head will open up to your ideas. But see, it's like when somebody's really in their belief system, like a shut box, just let them be. That's the way I think of it. You're happy with the way you are, just be the way you are then. But if you're a therapist and they're coming to you, that means there's something wrong. They're not coming to you if everything's good in their world, right, Sneha? So they're giving you actually the authority, and you have the authority over them, basically. If they say, I want you to be my therapist, then you make a deal with them. You say, okay, then you need to be open to what I have to say, right? And they might still resist, and you need to point that out to them, say,